Hey, Chris Taylor from Actionable. If you're like many of the consultants that we've been speaking with recently, there's been this explosion in client demand for impact measurement or behavior change measurement or proof of impact or whatever the client chooses to call it. You're probably on the receiving end of this request when you're in conversations with prospects. They want your program, but they also want to know how are we going to prove that it's creating change. And it's interesting because if you, and you may choose not to, but if you dig with them, the prospect, as to why do you want this? Why do you want the proof of impact? Why do you want the measurement arm to what we do? You'll get typically one of two responses. Either they basically sort of becomes navel gazy, right? Like, well, we want to know that the program's working. It's all right. So it's a CYA activity in that case, right? It's around being able to show their boss and their boss's boss that yes, the investment is generating some sort of activity. And look, I'm not against the idea of measuring impact for the sake of measuring impact. I think that's great that they want to do that. But in many cases, they're still thinking about it in terms of a program start, program end point. And these are the people that are further along the curve. If you ask some groups as to sort of why do you want impact measurement, you might just get a blank stare. I don't know. We hadn't really thought about why. So maybe don't ask the question. But I think it's important to be considering it because there's a expectation built into most requests for programming that suggests that the program is linear. Now, this is certainly better than one-off event-based, that it's now linear in most cases with sort of multiple facets and over a longer period of time, but it still has a beginning and an end. And what we found is that the most effective use of impact measurement considers a more cyclical nature. That yes, we're going to do some discovery, we're going to deliver some content. The content is going to land with the audience in a way that there's context, there's personal relevance established, that individuals want to change. And then using Actionable or another tool, we're going to support and measure that change impact. But then what? It's a circle. This is my view, is that if we can take the insights coming out of the behavior change data, we can use it to elevate the conversation, both from consultant to client, but also from the client with their people internally. And I want to give you a sense of what I mean by that. Let me just pull it up here. There we go. Yep. So this is a genericized version of real client data from a program or a pilot that was recently launched. So this is utilizing the Actionable platform. It was a pilot session around a culture rollout, values rollout, basically. So I did this pilot group with 91 people. They invited them to a 2-hour session and then had them make a commitment in Actionable's Habit Builder at the end of the session. What was the daily practice that they were going to engage in? And you can see the breakdown by region here. You can also see by cohort, you can see the themes that people are committing to. All of that is interesting, but to me is exactly that. It's, oh, cool, but it's not actionable, pardon the pun. It's not something that I can actually do something with. What is actionable is the piece down here, where we start looking at how successfully participants are making changes based on the content that they all consume the same content, but based on what region they're in. Now, why does this matter? Well, okay, so these are the three values, again, sort of made generic, but shared learning, decide and do, customer first. These are the names of the values that they're rolling out. And so what became really interesting to this client was the ability to say, in this pilot, the folks in the UK were really seeing the greatest change when it came to shared learning, as opposed to the folks in Europe on customer first and split between North America and Asia Pacific on decide and do. That becomes useful for two reasons. One, they can now mine for best practices. They can dig into the actionable data and they can also pick up the phone and have a conversation with the people who are in this pilot group that are from that region to say, hey, it looks like you had some great wins on shared learning, UK-based people. Tell us the stories. And this is exactly what they did. In this client case, it was around building internal comms collateral. Here's real examples of our people who are putting these ideas into practice and the impact that it's created. So it's propelling the program forward. The other piece that they did that was really interesting was they were able to connect leaders and laggards in various subject areas to share best practices. So they got the leaders from the UK region on the phone with the leaders from the Europe region to have a chat where the UK could share what they had experienced with shared learning, and Europe vice versa. So it creates this ongoing dialogue beyond the constraints of the program and into real world application where change is created. Now, again, I appreciate that this is a thinly veiled promotion for Actionable. Whether you're using Actionable or not, my encouragement for you is to think that if we are being asked for impact measurement, there's a question there around how are we going to use the impact data that's coming out to further advance the objectives of the client organization. If you can bring that mindset to impact measurement instead of just I got to find a solution and it becomes a tick the box exercise on the end of your well-designed, well-executed program, it's very little more than just the standard eval forms. All we're doing now is just capturing, did you make change happen, yes or no? Okay, great, on to the next program. I think that's an incremental step beyond the level 1, level 2 Kirkpatrick measurement that the whole industry has been plagued with for the last 25 years. But there's so much more you can do with this. And if you embrace a change sort of catalyst mindset, we call it change catalyst, someone who is actually driving change forward and not just checking the box around delivery, you can really elevate the client conversation. You can inevitably lead to more work with that client and have that greater sense of meaning, that greater sense of purpose, because you are truly creating impact, not just through your delivery, but through the ongoing education and stewardship of your client organizations.